This is the Wellness Club, where we dive into all things wellness, from nutrition to fitness to productivity and more. We are exploring the science to help you feel your best inside and out. I'm your host, Cass Camp, and I am so happy that you're here. Welcome to the club. Hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. I hope you had a great weekend. We're going to start the week off strong with a Plan With Me episode. The new year is going to be here before we know it, and I feel like the new year always comes so quick. At least for me, I feel like every year I'm always thinking about Christmas and going shopping and making cookies and doing all these holiday things, that the new year is just like you blink and it's here. And I really wanted to do this earlier than normal so that I can get in the zone and get you in the zone so that when the new year comes, you're ready for it. I personally love the new year. I know that the new year gets a bad rep because it's associated with failure and like starting these goals and not finishing them. But I have a different opinion on it, and I've talked about this before. If you're starting, it doesn't matter when you're starting. And of course, like the winter arc and all that stuff, like I think that's awesome to start early, but sometimes you need that push of like, it's a new year, let's do something new and really change your life in a year. Like I just love that mentality too. And I'm not saying that the other mentality is bad or they're better or worse, but if your inspiration comes from a new year, why not make this the best new year yet with new goals and new inspiration and new resolutions for yourself? If you're setting goals for yourself, you're ahead of the curve no matter when you're setting the goals. If you are trying to better yourself, if you are trying to level up and make positive changes in your life, I don't think it matters when you start. I think the new year is a great opportunity to start fresh. And if you're listening to this podcast, I already know that you're into setting goals and bettering yourself and self-development. So let's do it. Who cares if it's cheesy? Who cares? You're not going to fail because you're going to do it right. So before we get into the nitty gritty, the actual planning, the journaling prompts, all that stuff for the new year, I want to talk about the mindset a little bit. In order for this to actually work, and in order for you to actually change your life, whether you want to change your wellness, your physical body, your mental health, your relationships, whatever you want to change in this upcoming year, you have to do this one thing, and that is actually allow yourself to dream. You need to allow yourself to dream the biggest dreams that you could possibly dream. If you actually want to make the changes that you keep saying you want to make, you have to actually allow yourself to dream that life that you want. This is not going to work if you're telling yourself that that could never be you, okay? That life that you want, if you've seen it happen, it can happen for you. Why can't it, right? If you've seen other people have the things that you want and live the life that you want, then it can happen for you, but it's never going to happen if you think that it won't. If you think that the life that you want cannot be yours, it never will be yours. And I mean that with the most love in my heart, but you need to think that this life can happen for you. I have heard too many people tell me, I really want this, but that'll never happen. Or that could never be me. That life could never be me. I could never have that. I'll never be able to afford that. I'll never be able to do that. I could never do that. Yeah, if you're saying all of that, guess what? It really will never happen for you. You're right. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are right. So you might as well start thinking that you can. You better start thinking that you can, because you absolutely can. I personally struggled with this for a while, where I was thinking that my dreams just would never happen. And I honestly wasn't even allowing myself to dream. I was censoring every dream that I had by saying, that's stupid, that's unrealistic, that will never happen, who do you think you are? I told myself every single thing. And guess what? That got me nowhere. That mentality gets you nowhere. If anything, it just further reinforces this negative self-esteem loop that you can get yourself in. And trust me, I've been in it, but you gotta get yourself out of it. There's a shift that happens as you get older. You know, when you're younger, you're a teenager, you're in college, whatever. The people older than you always tell you things like, you have so much time, you have so much life ahead of you, you can do so many things, you can do anything. And as you get older, people stop telling you that. People stop telling you that you have time. If anything, it shifts to the complete opposite. You have less time. You're in a rush to do all these milestones. You have this pressure on you. And even if no one's explicitly saying it to you, society puts this pressure on you. And I'm starting to see it at my age, and I'm only 24. But there's this shift. As you get older, people stop asking you about what you want to do when you get older. And they start asking you, when are you getting engaged? When are you buying a house? When are you getting that career? When are you having kids? Whatever it is. There's this pressure to start doing all of those things. I saw this in my own life where in the past 2 weeks, I have seen so many people get engaged. And I'm at the age now where people start getting engaged pretty regularly. And it's pretty normal to go on Instagram and see people that I am the same age as, if not younger, start getting engaged. And it just starts leading to these conversations of, oh, you're next, who's gonna be next, right? And it just gets my mind thinking that, is that what I should be focused on? Because deep down somewhere, I have all these other things that I wanna do in my life outside of the traditional, like, get married, have kids, buy a house, that vibe. Of course, I want all of those things. But I also want really different things than that. It's weird because it's like there's this pressure to make that your big goals and to make that your big dreams. And what if that's not my big dream? Like, of course I want those things. I'm in a relationship where we're very serious. We live together. We've been together for a few years. And we definitely see that in our future. But me and my boyfriend, we talk about it like we want to do these other things too. Yeah, we see a future and we see this life, like the traditional life. But we also see us building businesses and building brands for ourselves and doing these other goals that we really want to do, that we both have wanted since we were young. And that doesn't make our relationship any better or any worse. It just makes it different. And I think that there are a lot of people that struggle with this, especially in your 20s. Most people are asking you, when are these things going to happen? And it makes you feel like that's the things that you should be looking forward to and wanting. But I'm here to tell you, if that's your dreams and that's what you really want in life, that's so awesome. But if you want other things, that's so awesome as well. You're allowed to dream those things and still want them. I don't care if you're in your 20s still or in your 50s. I think we all can benefit from dreaming a little bit more and like really dreaming these big things that you actually want to do in your life. It's not too late. You're not too old. I know that I'm only in my 20s and I keep thinking like, am I late to the game to doing things? Absolutely not. Even if you're in your 50s, there are so many successful businesses and successful entrepreneurs that didn't start until their 50s, 60s, 70s. Mel Robbins, for example, she started her podcast much later in life after doing other careers, other things, having kids, doing the whole thing. Same with Ed Milet. He had a completely different life before he started his podcast. And those are just podcasters that I think you would know of. There are so many big businesses and just big name people that did all of these things later. So it's never too late. And I think the new year is a great time to start this because it's a reset. It's a new time. It's a new year. You can look back in a year and say, wow, I really started this thing. You can look back from last year and see how much you've grown and how much you've changed. And maybe you didn't do all the things that you wanted to do, but you can see the progress and you can see that a lot can happen in a year. As you get older, the reality sets in and you start to become less naive, more realistic. Your expectations are managed a lot more, but you also take a lot less risks. And there's pros and cons to this, but I see just in my life and people around me and people older than me that your mindset starts to shift and you start to think that these things can't happen or it will be very hard to make these things happen. I really want to encourage you to think a little bit less realistic. And I know that that sounds like a little counterintuitive, but think about when you were younger, you probably had these big, big dreams. And as you got older, the noise started to come in a lot more. You started to hear that that could never happen, or that will take a lot, or you need to start focusing on buying a house and having a career and having a family, and your time is running out and all these other things. That noise gets a lot louder as you get older. But I found that being that realistic in your life, of course, there are pros, like I said, but you also start to set the bar lower. You start to expect that this is all you're going to get out of life. I've seen that in my own life. I've definitely struggled with this myself, where I struggled to find the balance between being realistic and really building a stable life for myself, but also taking risks to build the life that I want. When I was a kid, I always saw this life for myself that even with no evidence that it was going to happen, I just knew deep in my soul that I was going to have these things happen. I'm talking like 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, like really young. I had these big dreams and these big goals. And I know this because I have journals of basically my entire life. I got my first diary at 4 years old. It was a birthday present, and thank you to whoever gave that to me, because I have documented my entire life since then. Obviously on and off, but I can look back and see like this zest for life that I have. And I just know deep down that certain things are gonna happen for me. And I have these big dreams and these big visions for myself that I just know are gonna happen. Like it's not even a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I wrote a bucket list when I was in like 2nd grade of 100 things that I wanted to do in my life. And it's so crazy because I have done like half of the things already. There were all kinds of things on this bucket list, like different travel destinations, which some of them I've done already, different career things like speaking in front of thousands of people, which I've done already, and just like random crazy things. It's insane because at the time I had no idea what I was doing, but little did I know that that was allowing me to dream and made me think that I could do anything I set my mind to. And what's really crazy about this list is nowhere on there were the traditional things. There was no get married, have kids, have a dog. Like, of course I wanted those things. I had baby dolls, I played mom, I played house, I did all those little girl things. But when it came down to visualizing my life, somewhere in me knew that I wanted these other things too. Some of them just for fun, like traveling, and some things that were career, confidence, big things that I wanted to achieve in life. And I think that as we get older, we lose that a little bit. Like we stop dreaming and we stop thinking that these things can happen, and we just fall into this routine. Going into 2025, I don't want to limit myself. I don't want to limit myself to just achieve the things that I think I should be prioritizing just because that's what the people around me are doing. And I don't want you to limit yourself either. If you have these goals that none of your friends want or none of the people around you want, but you know that you want them, this is the time to dream them and start doing them. It's not too late. It's not too early. You'll never feel fully ready, but that's the joy of it and that's the fun of it. So allow yourself to dream and really soak it in. All that being said, I have 3 questions that I want to ask you to get you in the zone for dreaming. And I did these as journaling prompts before this episode, and it really got me thinking about what I want for my life and kind of lit a fire under my ass to start doing these things and start actually moving forward with my goals. In order to figure out who you want to be and what you want to accomplish, there are 3 versions of you that you can think about. I did this as a journaling prompt where I wrote about who these people are and what they do in their day-to-day life. And I encourage you to do the same, even if you just do it on a piece of paper, or you could just visualize it as we're talking about it. The first version of you is your ideal self. This is your future self, the most ideal version of you. This is the person that gets things done on the first try, doesn't take no for an answer, and just accomplishes everything. And this is the fun person to think about because this is the one that excites you for life and gets you excited for the future. And I love thinking about my future self. My future self is confident. She's a go-getter. She gets things done. She isn't scared of what people think. She just has this spark, this zest for life. She's kind to people. She's empathetic to people. She thinks about things before she says them. She has strong routines that keep her motivated and keep her energized. She doesn't give up on her fitness routine. She makes her meals at home. She's excited to go to work each day. She finds inspiration in the little things. She's satisfied with her life. She does her routines even when she doesn't feel like it. And she just does everything that she says she's going to do. If she has a vision, she does it. She goes for it. She's not scared of anything. And she learns from her mistakes. This version of you is the most ideal version. All of those qualities that you want, write them down. Write down who you actually want to be in life. This is your ideal self. I love thinking about my ideal self, and I use this as motivation outside of the new year. I think about my ideal self when I wake up in the morning, and instead of reaching for my phone, I think about my future self and what she would do. What would my future self do when she wakes up in the morning? What kind of routines does my future self have? What would my future self be doing with her free time? The clearer that you can get on this, the closer to your future self you will be, because you'll actually know what she does. What are those routines? How does your future self spend every minute of her day? Go down into the details. This is going to take longer than 5 minutes. Like, I really want you to think about every single thing. What does her space look like? What does her morning routine look like? What kind of friends does she have? What kind of clothes does she wear? What kind of energy does she give off? Every single thing, go down to the wire on every single thing that she does and go crazy with it. Really allow yourself to dream. Don't limit yourself. Don't censor yourself. Don't think about what you should be or what you should want to be. Do the things that you really want for your life. Does your future self travel all over the place? Does your future self have $1 million in the bank? There is no limit to this. This is the one where you can dream to anything that you want to be. There is no limit. The clearer you can get on what you want, the closer you will get to it. You can't reach for these things if you don't know what you're reaching for. So allow yourself to really dream, really think about these things. If everything went your way, what kind of person would you be? And if you want to make this a New Year's resolution type of prompt, where would you be a year from now? What kind of person would you be in a year if every single thing went your way? And write it in the present tense. Write it as if it's already happening. You're already this person. You already have these habits. You already have these routines. This is who you are already. I did this myself and I wrote pages of every dimension of my life, from my friendships, my energy, my career, where I'm at with the podcast. Every single detail of my life, I put who I really want to be in the present tense as if I'm already this person. Once you do that, we move into the next version of yourself, which is your probable self. This is the version of yourself that you will most likely be by next year. So if everything kind of stayed the same and you didn't really make any changes, who would you be in a year? This one's a little bit less fun, but it's interesting for you to see if your routines and your habits stay the same, who would you be? What would you accomplish? This is going to help you see what you're doing well, but also the areas of improvement that you might want to focus on for the upcoming year. As I was doing this in my own life, I found that for my probable self, I might not be super disappointed in her, but I might not feel super proud or as accomplished as I would have liked. So in a year from now, if I just stay the same, yeah, I might have done some cool things, but I might not feel as accomplished. I might not take as many risks as I wish I did. I might have some regret that I didn't put myself out there as much. My probable self has good relationships still. She still is working and doing all the things, but she might not be doing it to her full potential. My probable self gives in to her excuses a little bit more than my ideal self. She has less confidence than my ideal self. She takes some opportunities, but she also limits herself from other opportunities. It's not 100% bad, but it's not the potential that I see for my life. And this is eye-opening for me because it helps me see the areas where I really want to improve. The differences between your probable self and your ideal self are the clear areas where you might want to focus for 2025. This is where you can see what you need to be doing more of and what you need to be doing less of to help close the gap between your ideal self and your probable self. Your probable self isn't all that bad, but it's definitely not the full potential that you know that you can accomplish. And then from there, you can do the least exciting option, which is your feared self. This one is not as fun to write by any means, but this one really lights the fire under your ass if you've spent the past few years not happy with where you end up. Your feared self is your least desired version of you. This is if everything went wrong, who would you be in the next year? If you gave in to every temptation, every negative thing in your life, who would you be? What kind of qualities would you have? What kind of routines would you have that got you to this place? What would have to happen in your life for you to feel deeply unsatisfied? What are you afraid of becoming? What are you afraid of happening? This one isn't as fun to write about. This isn't as dreamy. This isn't as exciting. But this one is really effective for inspiring you and motivating you to actually make changes in your life. For some reason, when I was writing this and I was writing out the qualities that I didn't want to become, it started to really motivate me to do the opposite and push me closer to my future self. It's really exciting and inspiring to write about my ideal self who's perfect in every way and has everything going for her. But when I think about my feared self, that pushes me closer to my goals because it shows me what I don't want to become. For example, my feared self is stuck in her 9-to-5 job with all these dreams and no execution. She has all these things that she wants to do and says she wants to do, but never actually does them. That's my feared self. My feared self doesn't put herself out there. She's not confident enough to go for things. She says she wants to do things and she learns about things, but never actually takes action to go for them. She gave up on her fitness routines. She lets her excuses win time after time. On the surface, she might have a very stable life, but on the inside, she has no sense of purpose and no deep satisfaction. She doesn't feel content with her choices. She doesn't feel connected to her work. She doesn't feel connected to others. She just goes through the motions. And even if she's paying her bills on time and financially okay, she doesn't feel that satisfaction for her life. She doesn't feel that zest, that enthusiasm. She just goes through the motions, scrolls on social media, compares herself, and does nothing about it. That's the SparkNotes version of my feared self. And when you do this, I encourage you to really think about detail by detail who this person is. It's not very fun. It's not very exciting, but it really helps you see what you don't want to become. And it also helps you see what you prioritize. For me, a big priority for me is feeling satisfied in my life and feeling connected to what I'm doing every day. I'm so afraid of living a typical mundane life of just going through the motions. That is my feared self, and yours might be completely different. By doing this exercise, you'll be able to see what areas of your life are the most important, and then you can really dial it in for 2025 on those areas. Like for me, when I'm setting goals that are going to further contribute to me feeling that pride in my life. I think sometimes we set these random goals that kind of sound good or look good on paper, but don't actually align with who we are. Like you could say, my future self has an oceanfront property with a Rolls Royce in the driveway and all these accolades and trophies and different things. But then when you write about your feared self, you start to see what you're really afraid of, what you really prioritize in your life. And it might not be the Rolls Royce. It might not be the financial things. It might be being alone and not being connected to a community. It might be a certain career. It might be being super unhealthy with all these medical conditions and just not that high quality of life. By doing the feared self exercise, you start to see what you're afraid of and what you really prioritize in your life. I love that exercise. Definitely let me know on Instagram if you try it out and how your experience is. I would love to know. For our little strategy session, I started with that to get me in the zone of thinking about my priorities, where I want to focus my energy this year, and get really clear on what I want to accomplish in the next year. After that, I made a list of goals that I want to accomplish in the next year, and I separated it into a few different dimensions of my life. This is where your priorities and interests come into play because my priorities and interests might be different than yours, and that's okay. But making sure that you set goals in each big dimension of your life. So for me, I set goals under physical health because my physical health is very important to me. These can be more like workout goals, nutrition goals, something to benefit your physical health. I set goals in my emotional health. This is more like my mental health or even intellectual health, reading, yoga, things that are going to benefit my mind and my mindset. I set some careers and projects goals. So for me, a lot of it has to do with the podcast and events that I want to host and how I envision this podcast growing over the next year. If you don't have a podcast, you can also do like your actual career goals. So moving up in the company or starting a side hustle or anything like that. But I think it's good to have some kind of project or hobby or some kind of work goal. If you're in school, this could be a school goal, getting good grades, things like that. And then I also like to set some travel goals or like social goals. So maybe that's like growing your friend group or making new friends. Or it could also be travel goals. That's what I do. So going on a certain amount of trips in the year or going to new places throughout the year. Traveling is a really big part of my life. I love seeing new cultures, new areas. And also I just have friends that live in other places. And going to see them at least once a year is really important to me. So I always include something like that. If you're not super interested in traveling, you could also put like faith-based goals, social health goals, goals related to a specific hobby that you have that is just for fun. Your goals are your goals, but I think it's important to divide them up into the different areas of your life, and doing the original exercise that we talked about can help you see what areas of your life are really important to you. When you're writing out your goals though, it's important to write out goals that you can control. So for example, for the podcast, my goal is not to have a certain amount of listeners. Obviously, I want more listeners, but I can't do anything about that. It's kind of just like whoever listens, listens. But what I can control is how often I'm promoting it, the type of output I'm putting on social media, the amount of episodes I'm putting out, the quality of episodes. those are all things that I can actually do something about. So I reframe my goals into things that I can actually do. Same goes for physical health goals. Maybe your goal is to get into better shape. Rather than just saying, I want to get in good shape, really specify going to the gym 2 to 3 times a week, or meal prepping every Sunday, or something like that to really give you the autonomy and the control of actually doing something about these goals. Sometimes we quote unquote fail our goals because our goals were never achievable in the first place. If you're making these goals that you can't really do anything about, they just kind of happen, you're always going to feel unsatisfied. But if you're setting goals of strategic things that you can actually do and actually work towards, your chance of succeeding at that goal just astronomically goes up because you can actually do something about it. Some of my goals in 2025 are having certain guests on the podcast. I have like a list of people that I'm reaching out to, trying to get on in the next year that I'm really excited about. I also want to start having events in my community. So partnering with wineries and different yoga studios and different places around me to get a community together, have events, have girls' nights, journaling things, all kinds of events. That's like a big goal of mine in 2025. And maybe even host like an overnight retreat somewhere. I think that would be so much fun. And then I also have some traveling goals. I just want to go to new places and see new things. That's always a goal of mine. It makes me feel really alive and connected to myself, so I always try to prioritize that. And then I have some other more personal goals for my physical health, my emotional health that I wrote down. Something else that I did to really get clear on how I want to feel in 2025 is I made a more of and less of list. And I do this every month, but I really made a big one for 2025. It's writing down things that you want more of in your life and things that you want less of in your life. For me in 2025, I want more community building. I want more podcast promotion. I want more fitness routine. I want more following through on what I say I'm going to do. I want more confidence. I want more helping others. I want more excitement for my everyday life. So finding the joy in the little things. And I want more gratitude. And then for less of, I want less playing small. I want less comparison. I want less giving up on myself, less self-sabotage, less gossip, less negativity, and also less alcohol. In case you're curious, I am doing dry January once 2025 starts. So after the new year, definitely doing a dry January period and maybe even into February. We'll see how long it lasts. I did it last year and I remember just feeling so good and so energized. So I'm very excited for that to start. But I love doing the more of, less of lists, and I encourage you to do it if you've never done it. I do it every month for each month, but doing it on a bigger scale for the year helps you see what kind of feelings you want to cultivate and what kind of moods you want to have in the new year. It's easy to make lists of goals that you want to accomplish, specific actions that you want to take. But knowing what kind of feelings you want to have going into 2025 really helps you figure out what kind of life you want to live and what kind of day-to-day activities you can do to create those feelings. So overall for 2025, I really just want to encourage you to dream, step out of your comfort zone, and not limit yourself, because you can do so much in this next year. A lot can happen in a year and the time is going to pass anyway, so you might as well spend it working on what you really want to do with your life. Remember that it's not going to be perfect, but you can still progress towards your goals with baby steps. I saw this quote on Reddit that said that baby steps are baby steps for a reason. Yes, they're small, but they're also wobbly, unsteady, and babies often fall. So that doesn't mean that you're not moving forward or growing or getting towards your goals. It just means that it takes a little bit to get there. And I kind of paraphrased that and made it into my own, but I really liked that because we get so hard on ourselves and we expect ourselves to be perfect at something that we're doing for the very first time. No one expects a baby to walk perfectly the first time they're ever doing it. And even babies don't give up when they keep falling. They just get back up and try again. And that's how we need to be in our goals and our everyday life. So go for your goals, go for the big things, allow yourself to dream, really step into this future version of yourself and figure out the routines that you need to add to your life to help you get one step closer to that version of you. Because I'm telling you, that version of you is possible and can exist, but we have to take a step forward and make a change. You don't have to spend this next year doing the same things every single day where you look back and say nothing changed. This can absolutely be the year where you take a step towards that dream that you want. This can be the year that that dream happens for you. This can be that year, but you have to believe that it can be that year. If you believe that it can't, it won't. I believe in you. You got this. And let's have a fantastic year. We still have some time before Christmas and 2025, but I wanted to get this out here early so that you could start planning and preparing because it's going to be here before we know it. I'm excited about the new year, as I always am. I just love a fresh start. I love a new beginning. So let's make it the best one yet. If you haven't already, give this a 5-star review. It really helps out the show. And follow the Instagram at the Wellness Club XO and me at Cass Camp. I would love to hear from you and engage with you. You can send me a DM, a comment, share it on your story, whatever. I would love to see. And let me know what your plans are for the new year. What kind of goals are you looking to accomplish? What do you want to do? And also let me know what kind of episodes you like hearing. Do you like these planning, productivity type episodes? Do you like more health and fitness type episodes? Do you like just chatty, my life type episodes? Let me know. I want to give you guys what you want to hear. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. Share this with a friend. It really helps out. And I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.